Hey Clay County, I just want to give you a really quick one today. Sorry I've been gone, had another project that I had to take care of and it was pretty time intensive. So we're back into the swing of things now. And this one's going to be fairly short. And it has to do with the idea of the ancient universe and evolution being presumed to be true. And if they are true, then another hypothesis that scientists have come up with. The universe itself is very large. What we can see of it, some have said, is about 90 billion light years across. And inside of that space, there's about 100 billion galaxies, and each of those have anywhere from 100 billion to a trillion stars. Our own galaxy contains roughly 400 billion stars in it. And many of those stars that we see we've observed there to be planets around them. And a lot of those, within a few small criteria, are what we would consider habitable. Now, I'm going to talk about this in my next video about what really makes a habitable planet, but we're just going to go off of very few criteria. One of those is that these planets are in what's called the Goldilocks zone, or the habitable zone. And the idea is that it's not too close or too far from the sun, and it can contain water and steam, or vapor, water vapor, and ice all simultaneously on the planet, not necessarily the same location, but the planet has all three of those available because of how close and how far it is from the sun. It's just in the right exact spot for that to happen. And so there's a whole bunch of these habitable planets, millions upon millions of these habitable planets. And according to the scientists who believe in an ancient universe, who believe in evolution, they say that if even 0.1% of those potentially habitable planets contain life, that would still be 100 million planets. There should be 1 million planets, and 1 million of those planets must contain life if an ancient universe is true, if evolution is true. 1 million of the planets just within the Milky Way should contain life if their idea of how the universe got here is true. And they have a problem. There's no evidence whatsoever that any other planet but our own contains life. You see, if the universe itself is 13.7 billion years old, as they posit, if the Milky Way is that old, then the Earth, our Earth, according to them, is only 4 billion years old. But our galaxy was supposedly very hyperactive, lots of things exploding and running into each other and all kinds of crazy stuff going on as the galaxy kind of formed. But that settled down after only about 2 billion years. So there should be habitable planets in our own galaxy that after that 2 billion years, in other words, that are 11 billion years old compared to our only 4 billion years old in their models, that have life. And if they have life, then such a planet would have evolved that life at roughly the same rate that ours, maybe a little bit faster, a little bit slower, but they would have reached our level of technology and then beyond. They would have gotten to space travel, they would have been able to colonize other planets, and then once they got to the place where they could colonize other planets, it would have taken them only 2 million years to colonize the entire Milky Way. Now, that sounds like a lot, and it sounds like a lot of time, but remember, 2 million years is nothing in terms of the billions of years. And so the statistical analysis of how the universe is and evolution being true demands that we should have evidence of life, and we have none. There's no evidence of advanced technology. There's nobody answering our calls. We've spent millions upon millions of dollars in the SETI program, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and we've gotten nothing. No evidence whatsoever. No signals from deep space. They keep, every time we get a little blip of something, it's just sensationalized. Oh, we finally may have gotten something, and then it turns out to be nothing. Over and over and over again. And they're so desperate to find this life. And the problem that they have is that if the universe is very old, and if evolution is true, then the hypothesis is there must be life other than ours. And there's not. It does not exist. There's zero evidence for it whatsoever. And if we have a hypothesis in science, if you have a hypothesis and it fails, you should discard that hypothesis. And since this is all part and parcel to the whole ancient universe and the evolutionary idea, perhaps this is another nail in the coffin for those. The problem is this is what we would call negative evidence. It's a lack of information, but it is something that is posited by the people who believe these things. And they call it a paradox. Paradoxes cannot exist in our universe. They're not logical. And so it's not a paradox. What it is it's a hypothesis that failed, and they don't want to let it go. That's where the paradox comes in, is they want to believe it so strongly, but it's just not happening. And so I would suggest that they recognize that if there is no life, then Earth has a very special place, and we have a very special place, not because we are here by random operations of chemicals and whatnot, but because we were designed to be here, that there was some special motive behind putting us here. And then that's something that we can talk about at a different conversation. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you keep learning, and we'll see you next time.